Welcome back. It's me again, Professor Fleming, and this time we're going to take a look at EcoDistricts, which is a smaller scale, more organic intervention in the city to move towards sustainability. And an ecodistrict is a neologism, which is basically a fancy word for a new term, associated terms with district and eco as an abbreviation, and eco is an abbreviation for ecological. And it designates an urban planning approach to integrate the objectives of sustainable development. And as you saw in this course, frameworks are really critical for people trying to grapple with sustainability, trying to understand what they should do, when they should do it, how they should do it. And EcoDistricts really is a new framework that's been developed to work at the neighborhood scale. Similar to LEAD for neighborhood development, although more comprehensive and holistic, and maybe even a little bit more ambitious in terms of what it's trying to achieve. So we're going to take a look at EcoDistricts today and try to use that as a way to understand how we can move towards a sustainable city. The idea is as you build up neighborhoods that are ecologically functioning, it adds up to an entire city. It's much more ecological. So what if your neighborhood needed no outside energy, heating, cooling, etc.? What if your neighborhood was self-sufficient from an environmental standpoint, from an ecological standpoint? And I would argue from a social standpoint that a neighborhood that's not socially sustainable is probably not going to be able to persist. And so what we want to look at here is as cities around the world grapple with pressing environmental and social issues, the question of scale becomes increasingly important. While a large number of cities are adopting ambitious climate and energy goals, most are struggling. And it's obvious why they're struggling. Cities are too big to address sustainability directly. We need something that is a little bit smaller scale, a little bit more direct. We need smaller neighborhoods that add up to cities. I'm not going to make you read that. EcoDistricts, for me, are probably one of the best frameworks that I've seen out there. And what I like about it is there's a scale of things that you can do. So along here is the short-term things we can do and the long-term things we can do. And here is what an individual can do, and here is what a large infrastructural initiative can do. So things like, I could change my light bulbs. Pretty simple. If everybody just changed their light bulbs, we would reduce CO2 in the atmosphere very quickly throughout the world. Not that simple, though, is it? We can look at things like geothermal. We can use shared geothermal energy, and we covered that in our last one. We can grow food forests in the middle of cities in undeveloped parts. And we can have eco-villages, which are even smaller subsets of sustainability, of an eco-city. Ultimately, we want to get to a living city, the idea that the city itself is ecologically self-sufficient. And you can look at this some more. You go to the website there and look at that some more. Now, so EcoCities support a neighborhood sustainability assessment and investment strategy. EcoDistricts put demonstration projects on the ground. This is pretty critical. For utilities, it creates a model of integrated infrastructure planning that we don't always have. So this could lead to a resilient green infrastructure investments over time. EcoDistricts also provide a mechanism for scaling conservation and demand-side management of energy by aggregating. Well, that's a big word. When we aggregate or we add up all of the EcoDistricts together, we can have great impact. So, for an EcoDistrict, it creates a mechanism to reduce development and operating costs. For businesses, it's a platform to deliver district-scale infrastructure. And for neighbors, it's a tangible way to get involved. And I'm going to get into how this framework works. So, some of the outcomes for an EcoDistrict have to do with a framework and implementation strategy for cities to accelerate neighborhood sustainability, implement tools and strategies. This is really a toolkit for neighborhoods. High-impact projects can be understood within an EcoDistrict, and municipal policy can ultimately change from EcoDistrict. I don't like the word laboratory, so I'm skipping ahead. So here are the 5 phases of EcoDistrict development. District organization, putting people together, engagement, district assessment, where are we now? And then a feasibility study of where we could be. Finally, project development, and then a district monitoring. So once you're going as an EcoDistrict, how can you keep it going? These are the 5 steps. Now, there are, just like LEAD, there are performance areas. Here are 8, and I'm going to go through them one by one so you can get a sense of what the array of toolkits are out there. And the first one, this is, by the way, is a great document that you can read. I'll post this up in your one of your modules so that you can look at that. So number 1 is equitable development. So they've also understood that poverty and addressing poverty and job opportunity are really critical for pursuing an EcoDistrict. So ensure neighborhood investment provides direct community benefit. And you can read all these here. I'm not going to read them because you'll get tremendously bored, but I think you get the point here. It's that sustainability is not just about cool technologies and solar panels. It's really a holistic model for how we might move forward. And certainly health and well-being are critical for this. And we talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs and safety as being a critical definer of an ecologically driven eco-district. And we talk about beauty. If it's not beautiful, it's not sustainable. The themes repeat. The frameworks might be a little different, but they're all capturing essentially the same holistic model for how sustainability could work. And certainly public transportation and mobility are key. We've got to get rid of the car in the city if we're going to ever move towards sustainability. We need to be carbon neutral and net zero energy. Not easy to do, but something that we're seeing more and more of being pursued. We need to be net zero water, or we need to be net positive water. How do we get water? How do we collect it, and how do we use it efficiently, and how do we distribute it fairly? We have to look at habitat and ecosystem functioning. It can't just be all about buildings. We've got to bring nature into it. We have to co-evolve with natural systems in order to move towards a sustainable future. And then finally, we talked about waste at the very beginning of all these lectures. If we can't manage our waste, we have no hope for a sustainable future. So those kinds of systems need to be really carefully considered. So how does that really work? You've probably seen this before in my previous class. We want to get to zero. We want to get to the razor's edge. We want to get to a regenerative society. So what we have to do is begin to think about, we need to begin to think about our behaviors and actions, like riding bikes in the freezing cold world. We need to think about passive design strategies, efficient technologies, moving the bar towards zero, and only then using renewable energy to offset whatever is left to get to net zero. And ultimately, we can get to that. And there's the hierarchy of needs. Starts with intention, moves to behavior, then it moves to design, and then it moves to efficient technologies, and finally renewable technologies, and those are the order. It is somewhat linear, believe it or not, although it can be nonlinear. Ultimately, if you don't have the intention and the drive, it's probably not going to be possible. I suggest that you read up on EcoCities. Again, I'll post more information for you, but I really recommend that you look into this in a more deep way. This lecture was meant to give you a little brief introduction of what the framework might be. So thanks for listening.